Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours for today, February 8th, I believe it is, 2020. I spend some time twice weekly. Currently, it's at 9:15 a.m. Tuesdays and Fridays, and I'm thinking of doing a midday show instead on both those days just so I can accommodate people on the west coast of the US. Now, if you're someone who would be inconvenienced by that, you can put a message into chat. Let me know because I'm trying to service as many people and support as many people as I can. So I have the idea that a midday time might be a little bit better, but I'm not sure. I'll just start by saying I spend time at these times talking with you about, well, answering your questions about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, and dealing with different workplace issues. And if you're watching, you can always put a message into chat. Good morning, Terry. How are you? And put a message into chat. Let me know what your question is, and I'll try and answer it for you today. But in advance of any show, I'm also able to say that you can email me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours. This way I know what it's about and, I can kind of get myself organized in advance of the show. So I've got one person who's on Facebook. My friend Terry is watching. She's a regular here. And I'll just simply say, folks, I love helping. And well, I got a wonderful message. I'm just going to mention this before I do my toast. I do speaking to different groups around the country, and the most recent topic I'm doing is salary negotiation mistakes. And I got a lovely message from someone where he had accepted an offer and I had watched a video that I had done. I now have it on my YouTube channel called Salary Negotiation Mistakes. It's an edited version of a presentation I made to a group in Mercer County, New Jersey. And he took copious notes and went back after he'd accepted the offer and said to them, inflation's at 7%. Could you do a little bit better? And they did. And they wanted to do it. Took no time, no resistance. And it felt great to hear from him because it's the second person in 2 weeks who's heard my talk, used some of the knowledge I shared in that talk. And it's great to hear that I've helped some folks. So let me just continue by saying coffee toast, a simple coffee toast, and offer the idea that, folks, I appreciate the fact that you put in an effort for all of us. You work hard, you care, it matters to you. Not everyone is appreciated for doing that. If anything, many people are taken for granted who go about doing their jobs. It's only the problem people who get attention. So I salute you, I toast to you, who give a darn, care, and put in an effort. So let me just take a moment to take a sip. And thank you. So let's move to some of the questions that were sent to me in advance. Why do recruiters reach out to candidates who are unqualified for the position they are promoting? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. And you have to understand how recruiters conduct themselves. What recruiters tend to do is they're doing a search for a particular position. They're searching a database or perhaps LinkedIn and looking for keywords. Let's say, well, I'm not going to go specific examples, but they're looking for keywords. The keyword may appear in your resume. It could have been 10 years ago. It could have been last week. They don't know the difference unless they're actually looking at your resume or the data in their system or your LinkedIn profile. And they're not taking the time to do that. So they're mass emailing, mass in-mailing if you're on LinkedIn. to individuals who have those keywords in their resume. Now, the way to avoid it is by doing um, what's it called? Uh, I'm drawing a blank on the term, but I got it. A long tail keyword search. So lots of terms that allow them to narrow it down much more finely than what they're doing. And thus, without doing that, what they're winding up is spamming a lot of folks. I know at the beginning I made those kind of mistakes when I was searching on LinkedIn using the LinkedIn Recruiter product to contact people about searches. And I would say in my note to folks, that this isn't for you. Perhaps you might know of someone. Every once in a while I get a referral, but I wasted a lot of people's times until I learned how to do that long tail keyword thing that winds up helping so much more. So that's why it's going on. They don't search deeply enough in order to find people who are a better fit. And on LinkedIn, even if they did, even if they said, we want someone at a manager level who has these keywords in this geographic area and has a degree from, let's say, an undergrad and a master's, it still isn't going to tell them where you use that experience, where you had that keyword experience, unless they look at your profile. And frankly, they're just trying to do it the easiest way possible. So that's why you're getting all those unnecessary messages from folks for which you're not qualified, or you're overqualified, or past prime for. How do you best answer in an interview when asked, why are you applying for the manager position? I think the answer is because you're being asked the question for a simple reason. You're being asked because, well, you're perhaps more senior than the role and they're wondering why you're taking a step down. You're more junior for the role and they're wondering why you're trying to take a step up because you're not qualified. Most of the time, it's about the step down. And they're trying to get a flavor for whether you're being sincere, you have a legitimate explanation, whether you're going to price yourself properly. Because the follow-up question to that is, at a manager level, we don't pay as much as what you're currently earning or you last earned. You know that, right? And thus, the idea just becomes, they're just trying to get you thinking, get you talking more to understand why it is you're applying for a position that you're overqualified for or underqualified for. Most of the time with underqualified, you're not getting the conversation with them to have that discussion. It's normally about an overqualified person taking a step down. So again, they're trying to open up a line of conversation with you to see whether or not you'll be flexible enough, you're reasonable enough, you know what you're stepping into, whether it was a mistake, because sometimes mistakes occur, and to see thus whether they should continue talking with you. Should you brief your references on each job you apply to? No, that's crazy. Um, and I just say that from the standpoint of so many people apply to a lot of jobs, um, you know, and you're going to call them up and say, hi, I sent my resume in for 14 positions. Let me tell you exactly about each job. Like, you think they're going to be taking your calls in the future? No, of course not. So they just care about the ones that they're going to have to give a reference for. And that's going to be further down the road. You stay in touch with them and let them know, I'm on a third interview with so-and-so. I know I'm competing. I'm just giving you a heads up. There's a possibility we're getting close to a stage where you're going to get a reference call. So I want to start preparing you for that. But on every time you submit a resume or apply for a job, you're going to brief them on what you're doing? No, that's a time waster for you and for them. How do I shift a career from a software technical job to a management or leadership role? I know nothing about you to be able to really be sure where you are professionally and what you're doing, what you've done up until this point. For all I know, you have 1 year of experience and you want to become a manager. You could also be a person with 9 years of experience and you've been pigeonholed into a staff level position and you want to step up. I think the best way to do this is to do things that allow people to see your leadership. Sometimes you're going to have to volunteer for things. Sometimes you're going to have to be the person who takes charge of situations. Sometimes you're going to have to get closer to your manager so that she or he has a clearer idea of what you've done or what you're doing to move this project along. But the idea of just wanting it isn't going to be enough. You can take courses. Sometimes your firm will pay for those courses, but ultimately, if you have to, pay for them yourself so that you get a sense of what software leadership is about, how to do it more effectively, and advantage yourself as you compete with other people. But I'll simply say, for those of you who want to take that step up, do things so that people know that you're capable of it, because just wanting it isn't going to be enough. You're going to have to do things that demonstrate to people that they can trust you in that role so that you have a chance of being offered it. I'm just going to remind you, folks, if you're watching on LinkedIn or elsewhere, you can put your questions about job search, hiring better, management, leadership, resolving different workplace issues into chat. Very sweet. Someone sent a message to me saying, there's a lot I don't know in your situation, so it's hard to be sure. So I'm sorry, that was about a question I got on YouTube. My apologies. So it was a message in response to a video where they asked me a direct question, but I gave them some advice. I apologize. I thought it related to what I just spoke about. But again, you can put your questions into chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. Also, I'm going to remind you, you can visit my website to schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session, go through the blog where I've got a lot there to help you and find out about my books and courses. And also, interesting, I clicked the wrong item there. My apologies. You can subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube, No BS Job Search Advice Radio and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, where it's a video podcast, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You'll find a lot there that will help you. Let's go to the next question. Woohoo! Oh, I love this one. Can Uber driving experience be used to represent customer service on a job application or resume? Yes, as long as you don't have bad ratings. You can do a screenshot and include it in your resume to show the high rankings that you have and include some of the reviews, especially reviews where people talk about how you went above and beyond, did a great job. Anything that speaks positively of you and talks about going above and beyond, whether it's Uber or any other role that you're in, can represent, quality customer service experience on an application or resume. How do you handle a team member trying to take over the management of the team? Interesting. So let me start off with the idea that I don't know what level you're at, whether you're a peer of this individual or a manager who's feeling usurped by this person. So I'm going to focus in on the usurped one primarily and ask this question. What are you doing that's creating a vacuum in leadership that's allowing this person to step up and try to take over? Normally, the voids are caused by a leadership failure on the alleged leader's part. I'm going to say manager part, that's causing this person to step in and take charge. That's about you rather than about them. And thus, what I would do is meet with them privately and say, I've been off my game for a little bit, and I appreciate how you've stepped up and filled that void in my behavior. Thank you. I want to take it back and take charge again. Could you step back a little bit? And if you have advice, go through me. And let's work that way. The problem isn't them and their behavior most of the time. Most of the time, it's about the void in leadership that's causing someone to feel the vacancy and need to fill it. So, again, that's on you, not on them. Now, if it's because heads are butting, because you are being present in the role and they're being argumentative, again, you take them behind closed doors. And you can say, there's only one captain on this ship. Otherwise, we're going to waste a lot of time and I'm going to bury you. So it's your choice, unless, of course, they have a political patron that's watching their back. You always have to be concerned about those scenarios where there's a patron who is looking out for them and they back that person. They back your usurper. So be conscious of the politics within the organization, but at the same time, do things behind closed doors that take control. And if they have a patron, you can ask, you can always make sure that they get credit. You can always make sure that they have your ear. But ultimately, it's your choice because you've got the position and the authority. And if they don't like it, be prepared for a little bit of a battle with their patron where you defend your position calmly and say, look, I'm listening to your person. I understand you have a relationship, but I have a responsibility. And in looking at this, they're seeing things from one dimension. I'm looking at it from a higher perspective, and they're missing some key points. So I'll simply say, do a lot of things behind closed doors. Have conversations with them behind closed doors. Politely put them in their place, doing it in a respectful way, unless, of course, they're being argumentative, rude, and constantly butting heads with you. Then you can just, if they've done it once too often, if they've done it again after you've had a conversation, the first time you can respond by saying, come on, I asked you to back away. Back off a little bit. Yeah, but. And when they start to yes, but you, say, I'm asking you politely one more time to back off and let me take control. And if they don't do it, bury them. It's really that simple. Bury them so that in this way you can take the lead that you have the authority to do. My colleague is a team leader, has been asked to make a presentation about why she thinks she's qualified for a manager assistant, whatever that is. I find this very absurd. What do you think? Well, I don't know your relationship, whether you're the manager that she's going to need to present to, or it's someone else. So think of the presentation as being a different form of interview. And she's being asked to present to this person about why she believes she's qualified. So I don't know why there's a problem with this. They may not know her well enough to know that she's qualified. They may not have had a personal experience with her to understand how she's capable of doing this role. And even if they have heard something, they want her to fight for it against other competition. So absurd, no. It's almost like a death match situation if she's competing with someone else. So go with it. Fight for it. Have her fight for it. Encourage her to fight for it. And be an advisor to her for the presentation. Watch how she presents. Ask her how much time she's going to have to present, or whether this is really an interview or whether it's a whiteboard presentation. You haven't given me enough to know that, how to respond. But hey, be her friend, be her ally, give her support. Let me just check one thing. 1 second while I sneeze. Thank you. And let me come back to the next question. So that question is, how do you appear to be a change maker at work? Oh, I love this stuff. How do you look like a change maker in your workplace? You make changes. You put yourself in the position where you represent authority and work with authority to affect change. You notice things, you make recommendations. People start to give you a little bit more of a leash to work with. And thus, you create the appearance of being a change maker because you're influential. And through that influence, you're making change. And thus, you wind up with a patron, a sponsor who supports your leadership. And that's how you start to develop that reputation. Is it normal that a company rejected me for one position and after a few days invited me to another interview for a different one, but similar application? I'm not sure what that last part means, but let me try and piece it out. I must, in all candor, say, candidates hope that firms keep their resumes on file and notify them about opportunities that might exist for them. I think that's what everyone wants. So you, on the other hand, find it odd that they actually do it. So I'm laughing because to me, this is very funny. So is it common that it happens? No, because folks are too busy and they don't take the time to search their own systems to find talent that they've already have had contact with. Here they did, and it's confusing you. Relax, just go through the process, determine if it's a role that makes sense for you. Also, sell to this person who's contacted you for an interview, promote yourself. You're starting at square one unless you had an interview and there's some notes from the hiring manager there that indicate that you'd be well qualified for such and such. But even then, that new hiring manager is in the position of evaluating you for themselves. So you're selling, you're promoting, you're interviewing. Got it? So far, I have two more questions for today's show. And again, if you have one for me, you can just put it into chat. And it can be about job search, hiring, management, leadership, or want some advice about a workplace issue. Okay, let me go back to the next to last question. What advice would you give an aspiring leader trying to take the first steps into leadership? Notice things, take notes, ask questions of the leader that you are following. Why did you make that decision? I'm curious. I'm not second guessing you, but I want to learn. And I noticed you had three choices there. What was your thought process as you went through those three options? Notice things, take notes, ask questions. Bring them into reviews. If you have a weekly huddle with your manager, you can bring it into there. But you want to start asking questions so you learn the thought process. And then in ensuing situations, you can say something along the lines of, I was sure you were going to do such and such, but you did something different. Why was that different than the previous one? And they may say, I don't know. It's instinctively what I thought I should do. And that's also useful information for you. But again, to answer your question directly, start to notice things and take notes. Then ask questions of the manager, or it's going to normally be a manager that you're working for, and ask them about the choices that they've made and that you will learn a lot from. As of now, last question. Oh, yeah. What do I do when there are employees who are disloyal and tend not to contribute to the company? Boy, um, this is one of those situations that goes to employee engagement, and you have disengaged employees. Now, let's look at a couple of places where it breaks down. Number one is you don't hire well. You don't know how to interview. You don't know how to evaluate and assess people. That's on you. Now, let's assume you do know how to do it for a second and that you're really good at it. Then you've got a systemic problem where there's institutional friction that's getting in their way. And what you've done is taken a motivated individual and ruined them. Again, that's on you because you haven't run interference for them. And the result winds up being you've got to do a better job of managing and leading so that in this way, you don't lose them emotionally because disengaged employees have been lost and you got to recover them. So this is what's going on. Now, how you bring them back takes some time, but it starts off with demonstrating that you care by talking with them in a tone of voice like I'm speaking with you right now. Is you say to them, I get the sense of you not really being interested in the work. Am I reading it incorrectly, or is there something going on in your personal life? So you listen and you shut up. And if they say, no, everything is good, it's all fine, I like it here. Okay. Because you don't seem particularly interested or motivated. And, I miss those qualities about you. When I hired you, if it's a relatively recent occurrence and they're a new hire, when I hired you, I sensed more from you than just simply someone who's a robot doing minimal viable effort. I hired you because I thought you cared, and I'm not seeing that care to your work that I hoped for. So that's my expectation. And then you monitor them for that because you've laid down a gauntlet. And if you're missing it, you can always say to them, it's been a month since we had a conversation, and I'm just not feeling the effort from you. What's going on? And then you can get HR into the equation if there's a real performance improvement issue that you can quantify and not be fuzzy about. So it's not good enough to say, well, am I getting the results? They may say, because they're going to be defensive. Yeah, you're getting the results, but I wanted more results. I wanted more effort. I wanted more care because I had the idea that you were a person who was passionate about the work and you just don't seem that way. What can I do to make it easier for you? What kind of friction are you running into that's causing you to behave this way or act this way or what have you? Have the conversations. And if you can change them, you can change you and start doing a better job of hiring because this person isn't going to stay. You're going to need to replace them. So I'll just close out by saying, I hope you found today's show helpful. I've answered a bunch of questions. If you're watching on YouTube, give it a thumbs up on LinkedIn, share it, leave a comment, do something that lets people know it was worthwhile. Same thing as a Facebook Live. You can always like it, share it, bring it to people's attention. As of now, I'm doing the show Tuesdays and Fridays at 9:15 a.m. Eastern, and that may change in March, but let's continue on for now. I'll also say that there's a lot on my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us, that will help you in many different ways. And you can also schedule time. Oops, sorry, wrong one again. You can schedule time for free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. Also, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube, No BS Job Search Advice Radio in any number of places, and there will be a lot more there to help you. I'll be back soon with more. In the meantime, I hope you have a terrific day. Be great. Take care.